just to let everybody know, welcome to the October 19th zoning appeals docket before the Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. My name is Katie Byrne. I'm the acting executive director of the BMZA. If you have signed on via the internet, you're considered an attendee, and right now you do not have the ability to mute yourself or unmute yourself. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a microphone, camera buttons, and a chat feature. You should also be able to see the board and myself on screen. When your case is called, I'll make you a panelist and unmute you. If your camera is functional, you can turn your camera on at that time. For those of you who are calling in and wish to testify, what will happen is I will go through the call-in users. You will hear 2 beeps when you are unmuted. If you hear those 2 beeps, please speak up right away. If I don't hear anybody speaking up, I will move on to the next call-in user. If you're unable to connect via audio, please use the chat feature. If a speaker is inaudible, they'll be asked to call back. Please do not use the Q&A. It's hard. I can't look at both of them at the same time. So if you wish to testify, you can put in the chat the case number you wish to testify on, or you can raise your hand, and that will let me know you wish to testify. Let's see, the order of testimony is as follows. First, the applicant, then support for the application, then opposition, and then the applicant gets the last word, and then testimony closes. If you have any issues with WebEx, you can call our office and someone will be able to answer your call. Please do not call or email me because I will not be looking at email during the hearing. Our office number is 410-396-4301. If you're having technical difficulties and cannot participate for that reason, you may email bmza@baltimorecity.gov to explain the issues that you are having. And with that, I'll turn it over to our chair.
Thank you, Ms. Byrne. The board will endeavor to deliberate under ruling on your case at the end of the docket. However, there are a number of occasions in which we are unable to do that if we are seeking additional information, waiting for documents, or needing some other factual scenario to develop. But generally, you should receive your resolution within 30 days. But you can certainly contact the BMZA office after the hearing, prior to that time, at 410-396-4301 to hear the result. We do request that you withhold conducting any work or commencing any work until such time as you receive your formal resolution in the mail, and certainly don't do any work, and you're precluded from doing any work without pulling the proper Baltimore City permits. We have a number of cases on the regular docket and some that will have some opposition and maybe a lot of opposition. Only thing I'll say about that is to the extent when it comes time for you to present your position, if the basis of your opposition has already been stated, and we don't need to hear that multiple times. So just be mindful of the testimony that's gone before you so that we can manage the time a bit wisely. There are a number of cases on the consent docket. Those consent cases are cases for which the board believes it has sufficient information to approve the appeal. So we will call the case, ask the applicant if there is any additional information they'd like to add to their application, and we will dispose of that appeal on the record. With that, we'll commence with case number 2021-100, 1900 East Pratt Street. The appellant is Shaheen Batmanglich. This appeal involves conditional use of first floor as a neighborhood commercial establishment. It also addresses variances to bulk and yard regulations to use upper floors as a single family dwelling. Now, we can reach, I'm sorry, reports. We'll hear any reports on those consent cases as well from staff and planning in either order, and then we'll hear from the applicant. Do we have any reports for this matter?
Mr. French?
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this amended application and recommends approval of the application as amended to use the property as a single-family dwelling and a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverage sales. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
We have a letter of support from Brian Seal in this, in the file. The last authorized use for this particular location was a retail goods establishment, no alcoholic beverage sales on the first floor, single-family dwelling on the second and third floors. And I will pull, let me pull the applicant up here. I have a Shannon Bag Malich. So hold tight and I will elevate you as a panelist. There we go. Okay, Shannon Bag Malich, I'm trying to unmute you, but I do not seem to be able to unmute you. So it could be how you are connected. If you could please put in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, nope, there you are. We can hear you now. Thank you. You and I might have been clicking at the same time.
All right. We can hear you now, sir. Thank you. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
Sir, just a very general explanation. The building is 3 stories with a convenience store as it stands presently, and we would keep it the same use with the same setup. Will be one single resident at the moment and one convenience store. That's the request. To just essentially to create the same use that it was last time.
Okay. Well, very well. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Good luck to you. Going to move through second page of our docket. Case number 2021-208, 5600 through 5650, the Alameda. The appellant is Justin Williams, Esquire. This is a request to install a standalone drive-through ATM and accessory canopy on the southeast portion of the shopping center parking lot along the Alameda. The front yard setback and minimum building height variances also are requested. And do we have any reports from planning and staff?
Yes, thank you. The applicant has been working with the planning department on this particular proposal. This proposed development, which is of a small portion of the larger property, was approved with comments by the Site Plan Review Committee on September 15th of 2021 and received its final approval this morning from that same committee. The department recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all improvements and landscaping are installed and maintained in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Again, as Mr. French stated, this is to install a drive-through ATM accessory canopy on the southeast side of the existing shopping center in a C2 district. The request is conditional use for the drive-through facility accessory to a financial institution. Maximum front yard setback is 5 feet. What's being proposed is 5.7 feet. So it's a 0.7 foot variance request from front yard. Minimum building height is 20 feet. 10 feet is proposed. So it's a 10-foot variance request. The screening, there is a screening requirement, a variance from the zoning code as well. So Mr. Williams, I've made you a panelist and I see you are unmuted and your camera is on, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I like the beard you're growing in. So we accept the planning staff conditions. I think Ms. Byrne laid out the requests in full. We sent exhibits outlining the reason for the request. The real request is for access to the canopy associated with the drive-through lane. It's not clear if that counts as a principal building that would need to be compliant with the regs for the C2 zone, or if it's exempt from them. But in abundance of caution, we requested those variances. And then the other one for screening is about the drive-through lane. And some, I guess, the landscape manual requires certain screening requirements for drive-through lanes. The Amy Golder Basati for the planning department reviewed and approved our landscape plan, with screening along a street front, we want the screening that she approved, because for safety reasons, we don't want larger trees or shrubs blocking visibility.
Very well. Well, Mr. Williams, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, good luck to you. All right, moving on to case number 2021-222, 6302 Lincoln Avenue. Donnie Ancree is the appellant, and this appeal addresses the variance to bulk and yard regulations related to the construction of a 1- and 2-story additions to the sides, front, and rear, and to construct a rear deck. Now, hear any reports from planning and staff.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
The variances requested are as follows: a front yard setback variance, 30 feet is required, 23 is proposed, so it's a 7-foot variance request. Minimum rear yard variance, 30 feet is required, 8 feet is proposed, so it's a 22-foot variance request. Minimum interior side yard setback, 10 feet required, 1.5 feet proposed, so an 8.5-foot variance request. Maximum lot coverage, 30%. Max 54.1% is proposed, so it's a 24.1% variance. And a deck encroachment variance, 8 feet into the rear yard is allowed, 12 feet is proposed, so it's a 4-foot variance. I have Mr. Ancree here. I will make him a panelist. Mr. Ancree, you are now unmuted, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ancree. Sir, is there anything you'd like to add to your application at this time?
So, thank you. So we did get neighbor signatures. We did get association approval. After we got those approvals, one of the neighbors next door, had some cold feet, second thoughts about one of our setbacks. So we offered, the client worked out an agreement to scale back a little bit on one side. By doing so, the setback on the other side, we were going to go a little bit closer. Instead of 7.5 feet, go to closer there, and we got approval from the neighbor on that side to move closer than what our site plan showed. So this is a unique situation. I haven't been in this situation before. So nothing we're proposing is going closer than what the city is approving. But we do want to make that adjustment on the site plan. So you can advise on how to document it.
Okay, so you worked out an agreement with the neighbor on the one side to give, I guess, that neighbor more space, which
Right.
encroaches a little bit more on the neighbor on the other side, but that neighbor is fine with that further encroachment.
Exactly.
So you're essentially amending your application to change your setbacks then on either side.
Right. Right. So right now, the only thing gets affected. So right now, the request was a 1.5 foot setback in lieu of 10 feet. I mean, in theory, so that's going to become. I guess that setback is just flipping to the other side.
Okay, so you're moving your setback to the other side. And I don't think we necessarily specified which side of the building. We just identified it as so technically your application stays the same,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just moved from, your drawings are different from one side of the building to the other.
Exactly. So as long as it doesn't adjust the, yeah, correct.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, it's certainly still approvable, on the consent docket because the variance requested are the variances you'll receive. So the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. All right, good luck to you. Moving on, case number 2021-224, 101 through 103 West Berry Street. Brian Corwell is the applicant. The appellant. In this matter, involves a variance to bulk and yard regulations related to the enclosure connection between the two buildings of the single-family dwelling. There's a new 2-story and 3rd floor deck, infill, wood frame, and brick. I'll hear from planning and staff. Want to get any reports you may have.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Otterbein Historic District, which is a local historic district, and therefore the proposed infill addition, which would connect the two existing buildings, is subject to approval, complete height and massing, and design approval by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Therefore, Planning Department recommends that approval of this application be subject to the condition that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, and alterations, are completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Before we go forward, I see that someone actually did just raise their hand. I missed it for BMZA 2021-2022. It looks like Jeremy. So I'm sorry, before we move on, hopefully Mr. Arnett is still there. So Jeremy, I've unmuted. Jeremy Goldman, I guess. I'm sorry, we're backtracking a little bit on 2022.
Yes, thank you so very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you very, very much. And unfortunately, I guess Mr. Ankry, who was just speaking, dropped off, possibly. I don't know. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here. I really wasn't following exactly what was going on there, but again, I'm Jeremy Goldman. I'm the neighbor at 6304 Lincoln that they may or may not have been alluding to. I live directly next door on the northern side, toward the north, in the direction of Willow Glen, sort of downhill. And I absolutely positively want to be a good neighbor, and I'm not opposing the project. But I do have some questions for the board in the hope of protecting my property from any adverse effects and from exacerbating any existing drainage related issues. So I did want to raise just sort of two things. One was variance related, to understand a little bit about exactly what's going on. And the other one is just water and drainage related. If it's okay to continue on the variance related side, I'm not sure I understood how close they're going to come to the property. And also, it's not clear to me the nature of the addition, whether it's a driveway, a garage, a house, how many stories, the deck. It's sort of been in flux when I've spoken to the neighbor, and they're just, I don't know what it is, and I don't know whether I have any say in it. But to the extent that they're seeking a variance, I would like to just again ask that question and get a sense of what's going on and how close they're going to be coming and with what. And then, I'm sorry if anybody wants to say anything.
So, Mr. Goldman, this is Katie Byrne, the executive director. So I'm not sure which side of the property you're on. So what Mr. Ankry was saying was that they moved the interior side yard setback. Did they move that after a conversation with you?
Well, I spoke to the neighbors last week, and then just yesterday, they did send me a text saying that they're moving, it's sort of in flux, but that they're moving a driveway and a garage to the other side. And that instead of the 1.5 variance, that it was going to go up to 5 feet. So they're going to extend at least 5 feet beyond where they're entitled to. And and they wrote thank you, and I didn't respond, but they know that I was planning on calling in to the board.
Well, I hate to say this, but Mr. Ankry is dropped off. So I guess I'm hearing from you that you are in opposition because you don't know what they're doing. It's like
Again,
you're
I
either
think there's
in
one other item
opposition
that I just
or support, because the
Well-
board can't tell you what the runoff would be, right? They can't, because every application would go through some kind of review. They're asking for a lot coverage variance as well. So when permits are submitted, they still go through a review through architects, engineers to make that determination. But they have to come to the board first if they're going to be built somewhere outside of the bulk regulation, meaning that you can only get this close to your side yard or this close to your rear yard, or you can only go so high. So if you're here in opposition, then we're going to have to recall this later because we're going through the consent docket now.
Okay, so I appreciate that. Again, I've been on the phone since like 12:40 and on display here, so I feel bad that Ankry, didn't stick around or didn't know. But I don't want to I don't want to take up the time, and I also don't want to say that I'm in opposition. I think the bigger issue for us, or question, really just question for us, is just to ask the board whether or not the plans include anything to make sure that there's going to be no water or flood related issues, such as the water runoff
That would
downhill.
not be
that's-
before the board. That would be in permit review. The board only would give variances to setbacks, how it's constructed, how the stormwater management is, what kind of gutters he would need. None of that comes before the board.
Okay,
Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. It looks like I have Carrie Beer here, who I believe might be the architect. But again, we're trying to get through the consent docket. James, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to try to knock this out or move it to the end? Ask them all to hold.
Well, we would have to get Mr. Angry back, I think.
would. We
Why
would.
don't we try to call him?
Yeah, we're trying to get him on the line now, to get him to call back in. Looking up, he's here. So we have him.
thank you so much.
Yeah, let's just address it since we have everybody on the line.
Okay.
Loop somebody down the road.
All right, so I've got Mr. Ankry here. I think Miss Beer. I'm sorry, Miss Beer is here for another one. Sorry, she's not here for this one. All right, so this is Lincoln Avenue. So Mr. Ankry.
I'm back.
All right, thank you. Mr. Goldman is on the line. He's the neighbor at 6304, and he was confused about the exact setback on his side. And he had some issues with, I guess, regarding construction. So if you could explain exactly what the setback is from this particular proposed construction to 6304.
Okay. Okay, so 6304 that's the side that originally we were asking for that 1.5 foot. What was the person's last name? I'm sorry.
Mr. Goldman.
Okay, Mr. Goldman. Hi, how are you today?
Doing good, thank you. And I definitely want to be a good neighbor and a good citizen. So thank you
Yeah,
for.
fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure my client, Mrs. Reichler, she should be jumping on momentarily if she's not on now. But I think I know she approached you and the other neighbors. We obviously want to make sure that we're doing something that everyone's comfortable with. So originally we had the addition on your side of the property go 1.5 foot to the property line. The client mentioned that, I think, was it you that she spoke with?
I got an updated text message yesterday.
Okay, so I know that she reached. Okay, so she told me that she reached out to you, saying that she understands your concern with it being too close. She wants to accommodate as much as possible. So what she's offering is, instead of going 1.5 foot to the property line on your end, to go 5 feet away from the property line, which is much more comfortable, much more spacious, and so that's what she's offering to be a good neighbor and to accommodate.
Okay, and does she know what's going to be built there?
They're proposing an addition in the back of their house and onto the side. So it's going to be a 2-story addition above ground, and it's going to be along the back and the side of the house. There is a site plan that we created that shows where the addition is going, which I'm not sure if that was shown to you or not, but from your perspective, from your house, it's a 2-story addition to the back, and then it'll come towards your house a little bit, but maintain 5 feet to the property line.
Right, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I think it's like a 15 or 20 foot addition that's only going to leave 5 feet in between. Now, we have our grass, there too. Again, I think the bigger just question I had, you guys could do what you want to do, and we're happy for you and for them. The bigger issue or question for us is just flooding. Currently, there is sort of a lot of pooling, flooding. It's leaked into the basement, and we believe that it's coming from your client, it's creating a bug situation and things like that. So with a lot more house and a lot less grass, we just have concerns that it could be worse, and we just wanted to be sure that the plans are gonna take into account proper drainage and proper flood prevention and the like. That's really just our big concern. We don't want to turn around and all of a sudden have a flooded basement and have to deal with that then.
Got it. I understand. So any work, any work that's being done will definitely be, on the client's property. They'll, typically they'll build a silt fence, to make sure no construction or anything goes on. What I've had in a similar situation is, we would get the builder that within that 5-foot section of the side property to perhaps grade it in a way to create like a swale that the water, any water coming towards your house will get kind of redirected towards the street, which is typically what has happened. So I don't know exactly how the hill is being sloped in the back, and I don't know for sure if making additions is going to make the situation worse, but I'm pretty sure that at least during construction we can construct some dip in the ground that the water can be directed towards the street.
Okay. Mr. Goldman, I'm going to ask you, because we are here on a consent docket and it has an impact on whether we resolve this case by consent or whether we have to vote on the case at the end. We'd like to know what your answer is on the setback that Mr. Ankry is seeking. So I understand it's a 5-foot setback from your property. Again, this has nothing to do with grading or possibility of flooding. And again, that's not before us. What we need to know is your position on the setback issue.
Yes, thank you very much. So I will say that I'm not in opposition. I'm fine with the setback. We want to be good neighbors. We want to do what's right. And it sounds like that Mr. Ankry and his clients are willing to work with us in terms of making sure that there's not going to be any undue harm to us. We might have to talk about it in front of a different group at some point, and it sounds like they're willing to do that, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Very good. I appreciate your response, sir. So we'll go ahead and resolve this on the consent docket as we did previously, Mr. Ankry, but for the record, I'll just state again, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Were we,
So we were on Lincoln, which was 2021-222. So the next one on the consent docket would be 2021-224, 101, 103 West Berry Street.
again, okay, and I've read out the applicant again is Brian Corwell. Wait a minute.
And let's see. Yeah, Brian Corwell. And did we go through Brian?
Wait a minute. I thought
I don't remember. Martin?
I mean, he had his report. Yeah.
You got partway through. You got my report, but not the BMZA staff
Okay,
report.
all
Yeah,
right, that's where we were.
Odd place, but
Oh my goodness, okay. So 2021-224, 101, 103 West Berry Street, construct a partially enclosed breezeway between two residential structures, construct a 3rd floor deck in an R8 district. Variance is requested, minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 0 is proposed. So the full variance is required. Lot coverage, 80% is max, 97 is proposed, so a 17% variance required. We have Carrie Beer here, who is the architect on the project. I will elevate her to a panelist. And let's see if Mr. Corwell is also on. So Ms. Beer, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Carrie. I'm the architect for this project and here representing Mr. Corwell.
Great.
He was unable to attend today.
No, I think we have him. So
Do you? Oh, there he is.
I've elevated him to a panelist as well. So just in case.
Okay.
well, either Ms. Beer or Mr. Corwell, is there anything either of you would like to add to your application at this time?
I don't think there's anything we'd like to add other than to say we are in the process of going through CHAP and have received preliminary review from the neighborhood and support from neighbors.
Okay. Well, with that understanding, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, great day. Moving on, case number 2021-225, 7135 Harford Road. The appellant is Shakira Duffy, doing business as Benny Catering and Events Company. This is a request to use a portion of the ground floor as a catering kitchen. And I'll hear any reports we have from planning and staff.
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to its approval. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
The variance requested, it's interesting, this comes in, it's to be used as a catering kitchen. And what the zoning code tells us is that this is referred to as food processing light, right?
Mhm.
So food processing light in a C1 district is a conditional use. The last authorized use for this property was as a restaurant, so it already had that commercial kitchen. I'm going to elevate Miss Shakira Duffy. I just had her here a second ago. Where'd she go? There she is. All right, so I'm going to make her a panelist. Miss Duffy, you are unmuted.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm trying to start my video so you can see me. One moment.
Okay, we can see you now, man. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
good afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time today. As it was already stated, I won't repeat it in the sake of time, but I'm just here to get the approval. I started a small catering business and found that location, and it's perfect, for the first kitchen for my business to get up and running.
All right. Happily, we can tell you that the board, having heard your appeal, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
God. Thank you
Right.
so much.
Good luck to you, ma'am.
You guys, thank you.
All right.
Have a
Have a
good
great
day.
day. Calling case number 2021-226, 1509 through 1513 East Baltimore Street. The appellant is Tai Nguyen. This is a request to use portion of the ground floor as a personal services establishment, specifically a barber shop. And I'll hear any reports we have from planning and staff.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Washington Hill Historic District, which is a local historic district. And therefore, any exterior alterations or signage, et cetera, placed on this building would be subject to approval by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. The building itself is eligible for the proposed use. The department recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all exterior alterations and signage are completed or installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. French.
Again, this is used a ground floor neighborhood commercial, neighborhood personal services establishment in a neighborhood commercial property in an R8 zone. The last authorized use was motor vehicle repair minor, along with 15 dwelling units. So, it's Ms. Yen. I'm sorry if we mispronounced your name, but you are elevated to a panelist.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. I wonder how you knew what question I was going to ask. Thank you so much, ma'am. The board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. I'll turn back to, go ahead.
Oops, hold on. I'm clicking and talking at the same time, and sometimes it doesn't work out well for me. Okay.
Great.
Let's see. I think the ones that we talked about that may have opposition now
Right.
was
2021-155, 919 Fawn.
we definitely have opposition for Fawn.
Okay, so she will be here. All right, let's try 2021-173.
Okay, we definitely have people in the chat, so let's I guess we can start with that one first. I can't tell if they're here in opposition or here in support.
All right, let me call the rest of the case. So 2021-173, 5300 through 5302 York Road. The appellant is Shannon Edwards. And this is a request to use the second floor level of the existing church for a non-public school. A variance is required for off-street parking. So I'll hear from staff and or planning for any reports you might have for this property.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application Noted that this property is in the York Woodburn Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area. However, this urban renewal plan does not prohibit or further restrict this proposed use. With regard to the question of the off-street parking, the application included a floor plan which appeared to show a fairly limited capacity in terms of the number of students who would be served, but there was no specification of dimensions and floor area on that floor plan. The applicant has indicated to the department by email that there would be no more than 5 students at a time in each classroom. However, it appears that a total of 2 off-street parking spaces would be needed to serve this proposed use. And there is a parking area behind this building, which is used by the church, which occupies the first floor of the premises. It contains 4 parking spaces. So if there would be no overlapping of religious observances with school days and any preschool activity or after-school activity, those spaces could be shared with the church on site. Therefore, the Department of Planning has no objection to this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
The applicant is proposing an educational facility, primary and secondary, which is a conditional use in a C2 district. As Mr. French stated, off-street parking requirements are 1 space per 4 employees during peak shift plus 1 space per 50 students based on maximum student capacity. Ms. Edwards is the applicant. I've got her here twice, so I'll try to figure out which one works. We had an issue with posting, which I spoke to Ms. Edwards about today. The photograph she provided showed a picture of the posting on the inside of the building. Now, this was a case that was originally scheduled for 9/21. She provided an email this morning documenting the history of the posting on this property from even before the 9/21 hearing. They had some issues with the weather. The sign coming down, they put it back up, sign would come down, they put it back up, off and on. I believe it has been posted since 21 days prior to the September 21st posting. So they've submitted an affidavit that they did their due diligence to keep it up, but they had issues because of the weather. Either way, we have the president of the York of the York Homeland Association who's here. So clearly someone saw the sign. So we'll start with Ms. Edwards. Let's see if this is the one that works to make her panelist. Ms. Edwards?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
You're faint, very faint, ma'am. Not sure what you're using. If you,
It must be the laptop.
well, that's better. That's much
Can you
better.
hear me? Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us if there's anything you? Well, I don't want you to just tell us about your project.
Okay, thank you. We are a church school, and I know that there's one label, non-public school, but without the church, we can't exist. It's another subcategory. We are a church school, so therefore we're an extension of the already existing church, and this is why we're so small. In that building, I understand the variance for parking, which we only had when we applied 17, but I've lost 2 students due to the transitioning. So right now we only have 15 students, so we're even lower than that. We have no room to grow in that building, so we don't plan to expand or anything. As a matter of fact, if we are looking to expand, we would have to move the school. So our staff is only a staff of 3, which is also stated in the application, which 3 of us, we carpool together. So we only need 1 car in the parking lot. The parents, I did submit statements from the parents that they are willing to, for pickup and drop off, to use the parking area in the back.
Can you tell us, ma'am, whether or not whether the operation of your school will conflict or overlap at all with any religious services or activities conducted by the church?
Sorry, no, sir. School is Monday through Friday,
Yes, ma'am.
from 8 to 2:45, 8 a.m. to 2:45 p.m. And our religious services are on Thursday evenings and Sundays. And
Okay.
any other time it would be in the evening.
All right. Thank you for that additional information.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes,
Ms. Edwards, is that an active congregation?
Yes, it's an active congregation. I am the co-pastor, yes, of the church.
And how's the school affiliated with the church?
We are a church school, which means that the school has to be registered by the state. We have to be operated by church, by the church. So it's operated by church authority.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And so who else? You're muted, Katie?
We've got Lisa O'Reilly, who I will, let's see, I think I can unmute her here. Miss O'Reilly?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, board. Thank you very much, Miss Katie. Miss Edwards, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you.
Miss Edwards and I have had a couple of conversations. Just so the board is clear, I am the president of a very small organization, association, that exists to represent the 400 block of Homeland Avenue, which any of you who are familiar with Baltimore, the Homeland Avenue that I live on, the 400 block, is the oldest part of, it existed before Homeland. We're behind what used to be the Provident Bank, just there on York Road. I represent the 15 townhomes that have been built recently in 2007. And then there are 6 houses on the south side of the 400 block. And then there are 2 houses that we represent, 2 standalone houses on the north side of the 400 block. Now, I live on the corner of Crowson Avenue and Homeland Avenue, just to give you the geography. The reason I'm speaking today is because this street is a one-way street from York Road down onto Homeland Avenue. Many people who live in the Winston Govans area, the Radnor Winston area, or want to access the back of the Govans Manor will come off York Road down onto Homeland Avenue and turn left onto Crowson Avenue, which is legal. However, on a very regular basis, there are cars who illegally come up the one-way street, oftentimes wanting to avoid a set of traffic lights on the corner of Woodburn Avenue and York Road. Students, employees, sometimes of Loyola, sometimes there are emergency vehicles, sometimes police will do that. Oftentimes they turn onto Crowson and not come to approach the building in question. Just again, to give you more geography, the parking that Ms. Edwards is speaking of, the entrance and exit, there's only one entrance and exit of that parking lot. It enters and exits onto Homeland Avenue, about 200 feet from the corner. There is a fire hydrant on that corner. On the north, so we're talking about the north side of Homeland Avenue. Some cars will go up one way to come out onto York Road, but recently, because of our violence reduction and because of the presence of police cars, that doesn't happen as much. It will happen if people don't understand and don't know those police cars are there, they may attempt to do that. My concern and our concern is twofold. A, cars who are picking students up who might be late will take advantage or try to come up the one-way street to access that parking lot. That's one. Opposite that parking lot, there is an exit and an entrance to a Jai Medical, which is now what is in that bank, a previous bank building. And there are many cars that come in and out of there during the day. I would be concerned that, and I understand where Ms. Edwards is coming from, that there are very few students. Right now, there is already cars parking on that north and south side of the street, and it makes the turn from York Road down into Homeland a little precarious. I'd be concerned that when cars are coming to collect children, they are going to either come across cars coming up the wrong way, children coming out of the Giant Medical or who walk across the street because they're parking, even though they have sufficient parking. I'm just voicing concerns. I'm not objecting to the school, not by any means whatsoever. I'm happy the school is there. It's a beautiful thing. I appreciate that the student body would never go over 17. I appreciate that. I would just like Miss Edwards and the church to appreciate that that particular parking configuration at the back, that may cause problems. It's not very well signposted. There is an entrance onto York Road from that building that at the present has a fence around it. And I'm not wondering whether that mightn't be a better option to open that fence up and have cars be able to turn in there instead of turning onto Homeland Avenue itself. I haven't been able to discuss this with Ms. Edwards. We've not been able to get together to do that. So in summary, again, I'm just wary of cars parking, not even using that parking lot to come in, turn around and go back out again. I'm very leery of cars literally dropping and running and causing a very narrow one-way turn, opening itself up to a lot more potential for crashing and for children getting caught in something. Unless it is, and this is my suggestion, unless there's very good parking monitoring at pickup and drop off, and that those cars are not parking even temporarily. There is absolutely no space to double park. Absolutely none. There are already parked cars on either side of the street there. There is no opportunity to double park. And if you did double park, you will be crashed into it. It's that narrow. So that's, again, I might be assuming things, but I've lived on the street for 20 years. I understand it better than a lot of people, and I'm just pointing that out. Thank you. If anybody has any other questions, or Ms. Edwards, if you have any questions for me, I'd be delighted to answer them now. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think where I heard, I guess, several times that she's not opposing the request, just wanting to point out the potential hazards associated with that parking configuration. So I think, to me, this is still consent situation as opposed to an opposition that we have to vote on. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, ma'am, Ms. Edwards, the board, having heard your appeal, we're mindful again of the information that was just brought forth, but with regard to your specific application, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like that'll conclude the consent portion of the docket. You're muted, Ms. Byrne.
Yes,
Right.
that is.
But I did read those slips. Yes.
That is the end of it. Yeah.
Right.
We definitely have people here in opposition for Fawn, and then as all of the other ones, as we stated as well.
Sure. All right. We'll again start from the top of the regular docket, calling case number 2021-136, 3430 Keswick Road. The appellant is Wicketh LLC. This is a request to use premises as a restaurant with outdoor seating and catering. Hear any reports we have from planning and staff.
Planning Department has no comment on this application at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Just to remind the board, this case was originally heard on 8/24/21 and postponed to allow the parties to discuss and possibly come to an agreement. The proposed use is as a neighborhood commercial establishment, a restaurant with outdoor seating / catering in an R6 district. The variance requested are 1, a conditional use for neighborhood commercial establishment, and 2, conditional use outdoor dining, which is accessory to the principal use. We've received opposition from both Councilwoman Odette Ramos and Hampton Community Council The statements made by the opposition are that the owner did not reach out to them to discuss. Let's see. And the last authorized use for this particular location was a parking garage. So it was a one parking garage if you look at your application. So I will look for, please raise your hand if you are here as the applicant. I believe in the chat it identified who is here. Hold on one second. Just got to roll back up. Yes, Josh and Valentino. Right, so. All right, Mr. Mente, I've just made you a panelist, and I will look for Valentino. Also made you a panelist. So Mr. Mente, you are unmuted, and Mr. Valentino, you are also unmuted.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So,
Good afternoon, Mr. Sandoval.
I'm the chef. I'm going to be the chef in there for Wichas. Looking to open a restaurant. It's going to be more family. It's like I say, we're going to be open a patio. Going to have a couple of tables outside. My hours are going to be 11:30 to 10:30. Actually, I'm looking more for like family style restaurant instead of just bar food. It's gonna be nice upscale Mexican cuisine. We're going to have, of course, tacos, ceviches, and different kind of Mexican presentation. More a lot of French techniques, which is going to be, that's what I go to training for. And also I want to do, like I say, more family instead of just people come and make a lot of noise. I want to close early, just in case for the neighbors, they have a lot of issues with the noise. That's all I want to say for me. Josh?
Let me ask you a couple of questions, Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
You said the hours are going to be 11:30 to 10:30. Would that be 7 days a week?
Actually, I want to close on Sundays.
Closed on Sundays,
Yes.
but it will close 10:30 on Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Does the facility have a liquor license?
We want to have a liquor license.
I'm sorry?
Again, we want to have a liquor license.
You want to have a liquor license?
We want to have it, yes, actually.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you correctly. You have a liquor license, but in any event, you're intending to get one to operate your business?
Yeah, we intended to get one for the property.
Okay. All right. Were you involved in the earlier efforts to well, in this case, I guess was moved back in time in order to allow an opportunity for I guess you as an applicant to reach out to the community. Is there any reason why that didn't happen? Or
Yeah,
did
actually,
it?
I don't have yes, I want to reach the Hammond Association. Actually, I have a lot of good friends in there. I've been the community handler for the past 5 years, actually, a very active chef. Where I used to be running corner charcuterie back at the time. And actually, I'm very good and friendly friend around Hamden. And yeah, definitely I want to reach them out and or to try to explain to what I want to do in that property and what kind of cuisine I want to put it on in there also.
Okay.
I'm confused. Does that mean he's met the community or he would like to meet with the community?
I don't know.
I don't either. What did Councilperson Ramos say?
Well, no, I'm pulling it up for you right now. So I have the email from the Hampden Community Council from Eli Lopatin, the president. We heard that this project was not going forward and we have not had contact with the prospective owner. I've just heard that the hearing is now scheduled for tomorrow. Without any additional context, we oppose this use in a residential area. That came from Hamden, from Councilwoman Ramos. Hold on one second. Let's see. It was the same, did not believe it was going forward. And yeah, that's what we got. We got the opposition from. And I believe,
And when was that date?
let's see, we got opposition.
Okay.
Right, so there's actually two things. We had posting issues with this one as well. I think that was raised by Councilwoman Ramos for the original one. And I think for Councilwoman Ramos, it was before, when they didn't have any idea what was going on with the project. But we also have two additional people in the chat.
Okay. I guess we can call on those individuals.
Right. Let's see, I think, hold on one second. Mr. Catelli, let me see if, do you have, before I move on, sirs, do you have anybody that you know of that wish to testify in support of your application before we move on to opposition?
Well, yes, I have not right now in my mind, but yeah, you.
Lou Catelli is on the line. Did you want to have
Yes,
him?
yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Catelli, you're unmuted, sir.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, sure can.
Thank you. I'm just helping the applicant out with the application. I just want to stress the fact that the hearing was postponed not for any to us any meeting issues, but the sign had come down and had fallen down. It was reported that was not up, so they asked us to repost the sign more permanently and reschedule the hearing. But this is the first we heard about opposition from the community to meet with them. That wasn't why the hearing was postponed last time.
Okay.
So just to clarify, I'm looking at the emails that came through on this. I think it was twofold. I think that it was originally on August 24th, and there were emails back and forth on the 23rd that the Odette Ramos and Hamden Community Council said that the sign had not been up for the specific period of time. So there was no necessarily back and forth for that. And then it was, let's see, the Odette Ramos was looking for contact information, and I think that the board had said also to have the parties have a conversation. So it was, one, postponed because the posting was questionable, and then two, to also allow the parties to have an opportunity to have a discussion. Contact information was exchanged with Hamden Community Council and Odette Ramos. And so that's what I have in our record.
Okay.
I understand. Yeah, the only contact that I received from the BMZA was that the posting wasn't up the proper amount of time, had been taken down. It's the first we're hearing that the community is trying to reach out to us. No one reached out to Valentino or Josh that I know of. So that's all I can speak to.
Well, have you reached out to the communities? Hello?
Yeah. It may be that they were looking for the applicant to reach out to them. Sounds like that's what's in our record. In any event, let's hear out whomever else we have who wishes to be heard.
All right, so we have one person here who's in opposition, Alexandra Lavery. Let's see, Ms. Lavery, I'll get ready to call you. Ms. Lavery, you're unmuted.
Yeah, so she actually had to leave the meeting because she had a work client, but I'm her husband and I live right next door as well, so I can speak on her behalf. My name is Neil Whitmer. And I think the main couple of concerns that we have is that we are very concerned that it would change our parking situation. We don't want the increased noise that all of the increased foot traffic would bring with the rest. Obviously, if there's a liquor license, that is it has a lot more potential to bring a little bit more disruption. There are a ton of kids, a ton of young families around. So we would, it's a small space. There's not like a ton of, there's a small alleyway next to it. So it can get a little bit dicey around there to begin with. So if people are, coming in with families, drinking, driving around, we don't want to see anything happen with the children around. As well as just the increased foot traffic in such a small compacted residential area. And I also think, again, like with the parking, we don't want to see the street parking change. We don't want to see the parking lot behind our house change. I have a parking pad, and I don't necessarily want people in and around my area there either, if they have to walk in and out from the restaurant to the parking lot, if anything were to change there. So I think those are our main objections to the restaurant at this point.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Muted, Katie.
Sorry, we have Ian Carmichael, who is also unmuted. Mr. Carmichael?
Yes, hi, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Go ahead, sir.
So I own 4 properties on the 3400 block of Chestnut, one of them being my principal residence, and it backs directly to the place on Keswick, 3430 Keswick. In talking with the Hamden representatives from the Hamden Community Council, I'm a real estate investor as well, so I do a lot of my own zoning variances and things like that. What they're asking for, they had no plans uploaded to their application that we could find to find out. So it says basically for a use for outside seating and for a restaurant. The existing location is probably I would say 15 or 17 foot wide garage there, that the side of it is an alley. Next to it is a residential house. On the other side, where you heard Neil speak, that's a residential house. So across basically a 10-foot wide alley, and both of them are right on the property line. In the back behind it, there's no alley behind that property because it has full lot coverage that we could see that there would be any sort of garbage storage at all. So where would they put dumpsters? Where are they putting? I mean, we have no idea what their plan is for the outside seating. The sidewalk itself is maybe only, 12 feet wide. So they're going to block, walkways, things like that. But also in speaking with Nate Prettle, who's on the Hamden Community Council and works a lot with zoning variances, nothing was presented to the community association at all. There was no engagement whatsoever, which is the process that I would follow every time going through a zoning variance, to let the community know. We basically are just grasping at straws because we just have no idea what they're actually planning on doing inside there. And, I mean, obviously we welcome all businesses, in there, but there's enough existing commercial food storage or food service locations on the avenue and around Hamden that I don't see why we would do a non-conforming use for a property that's a garage right now when there's plenty of other available properties out there.
Okay.
And to pair what Neil was saying on the call earlier, on the thing earlier, is that there are a lot of children that play behind our houses in a parking lot. There is a city-owned parking lot there that and a lot of us don't have parking in these properties, and we park on the street on Keswick or on Chestnut, and it's already busy and challenging to find any sort of parking with the avenue. This would just be a undue stress on a lot of the property owners that are already there, in my opinion.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that's it as far as people who have indicated that they wish to testify on this matter.
I have a question, Mr. Catelli. Are you still there, Mr. Catelli?
He should be.
So much for that. Mr. Catelli, are you there?
Yes.
What is
Can you hear me?
what is your proposal for outdoor seating?
I'm going to pass that along to Mr. Josh and Mr. Valentino. They're both the ones that are paneled right now. They have that answer for you.
The ones that what?
The two gentlemen that are impaneled, Joshua Mente and Valentino Sandoval, they have the answer to those questions for you.
All right.
So my name is Josh. I'm actually the property owner, or I own the corporation that owns the property. I can answer some of the questions specifically related to that from what Valentino has shared with me. There's a small pad on the front that sets back from Keswick. As a guess, I would say it's maybe 2 or 3 tables. It's not a large outside area. It's more just a couple seats out front. In reference to some of the other comments that are made, I'd be certainly respectful and understand, being in a residential area, the impact that any commercial establishment has on any residents. I would say that Benecki Street, which runs directly next to it, there's actually, it's a very wide street. It actually exists because there's about 5 homes between Chestnut, or the rear yards of the 3400 block of Chestnut, into this property specifically. I think there's 5 row homes that sit there. And there's also 3 city-owned lots. So as far as parking goes, those are public lots, as far as I understand, and I think that would suffice for any parking needs that might need to be made. Now, I would also say that given the size of this restaurant, I don't think this is going to be a heavy traffic use of people coming in from suburbs like you would see on the avenue. I think this is more to service like neighborhood use. So I certainly understand that. It's certainly wide enough for a car because it's a street, actually. It's not even an alley, it's an actual street. I think that given the opportunity, I would see that it could work just like anything else.
And why haven't you met with the communities?
Myself personally, I'm not the one applying for this use, so I wasn't involved in that part of the process. This is more, I'm just here because I own the property to answer any questions. So Valentino and his LLC was applying for the actual use to be able to convert into a very small operation.
Bill, I know you had asked what Odette Ramos had said. I was looking in the wrong box for her email. So the email that she sent last night was, the applicant has not approached the community for support, so I would recommend no decision be made until they approach the community to go over their plans and details. We oppose this use until it happens. That was from Councilwoman Ramos.
Didn't we say the same thing a couple months ago?
I believe that, yes, well, there were definitely posting issues, and we asked, and I found my email where I connected some people. It was Odette Ramos and President of Hampton Community Council, and I had Valentino's email and contact information.
Sounds to me like,
go ahead, Bill.
these guys are doing a lot of guessing, but don't have many facts.
I can't pull up the any plans associated with the application presently.
Let me see if I can pull them up.
But we've got a plan in our packet. It looks like my 8-year-old grandkid did it. Hand drawn. Looking at it right now.
Let me see if I can pull it up for you and share screen. All right, so we've got two. All right. There it is. All right, can you guys see that? So this
That's what I'm looking at.
was,
Yes.
yeah, so this was the drawing. And then this is the site plan.
Yeah, I've got that also.
Okay.
Like I said, it looks like my 8-year-old grandson could have done that plan.
So there's the, I'll go back to the drawing now that you see the site plan. So the prep area in the back, it looks like dining room in the front.
Okay. Okay. So Mr. Sandoval or Mr. Catelli, is it your testimony that you had not heard these concerns to this point from the community, from councilperson?
I did not get any of that information until just now.
Okay.
See, that's the job of the applicant, to reach out to the neighborhood, which you guys obviously haven't done.
All right. Is there any other testimony, anything else, I guess at this point, the applicant wishes to add?
No, I'm good. Or no, I'm good.
Okay. Very well. We'll take it up.
Okay.
Deliberations.
Thank you.
Yes, man.
Okay, let's move on to case number 2021-143. 901 through 911 South Elwood Avenue. AB Associates is the appellant, and this is a purpose of the appeal to demolish the existing one-story structure, subdivide lot and construct 9 new single-family row houses, and renovate the existing rectory building into 6 dwelling units. Here are any reports we have from planning and staff.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and the layout, the site plan that accompanied it. The Planning Department notes that there are actually 2 components to this application. One would involve saving the existing building on the property and converting it. It's known as the rectory building in the plans, into 6 units of multifamily housing. The other portion basically also comes in 2 parts. There would be 8 garage rear townhomes built along Hudson Street. And then there would be a 9th townhome built along Robinson Street, which would be attached to the existing row of houses along Robinson Street. The Planning Department has deep concerns about this particular subdivision proposal and the variances that accompany it. Most specifically, the issue is that the creation of the 9th new construction lot involves severing what is now the rear yard of the rectory building, which has a 2-car garage on it, or has had a 2-car garage on it, and using it as a building lot for a new building. For this reason, the department believes that this application should be disapproved with regard to the lot area for the number of dwellings proposed in the converted rectory building, as the lot area would be nearly satisfied if that lot was not divided off in order to provide a 9th new structure along Robinson Street. And secondly, the proposed lot coverage for the end of row dwellings to be built and designated on lot number 1 is excessive and the building needs to be reduced. In the absence of off-street parking for the proposed multifamily dwelling use of the rectory building is being created or is proposed to be created by the application in order to provide a building lot for a house. And therefore, the department very specifically believes that this application should be disapproved with regard to those specific points. This application will have to come in front of the Planning Commission for subdivision and development plan approval. And the Department believes that it could be approvable for 8 new construction garage rear townhomes and for the rectory building with 6 multifamily units in it, provided that the 9th building proposed lot is not subdivided off from the lot that would contain the rectory building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
As Mr.
Hey,
French,
Martin, excuse me, Martin, where's the 9th building? I'm having trouble with these drawings.
Okay. Hold on a minute. I've got to find the floor plan copy, the site plan copy that I was provided. This property, if you look at the site plan prepared, shows 3 streets bordering it on 3 sides. There is Elwood Avenue, which the rectory building fronts on. There is Hudson Street, which runs east to west, and on which 8 new garage rear townhouses are proposed. And then if you come around the corner from Hudson to Robinson Street, which is parallel to Elwood, there is a 9th new building proposed there. But it is on a lot that would be created by severing that land, which now contains a garage, from the land that would hold the rectory building. And therefore, the planning department sees no reason for any variances to be granted with regard to the creation of that lot number 9 as it is shown on the site plan.
Gotcha.
so the specifics that are being requested are: 1, a minimum lot area variance one of 4,125 square feet. 1,867.5 square feet is proposed, so it's a 2,257.5 square foot lot area variance. Maximum lot area variance, 80% is required, 82.3 to 95% is proposed, so it's essentially a 15% variance. Minimum rear setback variances, 20 feet are required, 4 to 14 proposed, so anywhere from 6 to a 16-foot variance is requested. And then, as Martin was describing, the off-street parking variance requirements would be 6 spaces required, 0 proposed. So they're requesting 6 spaces variances. I've got Josh Wittenberg and Al Berry both elevated as panelists. Mr. Wittenberg, you are unmuted. Mr. Berry, you are also unmuted.
All right. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. I think Nate is going to get started.
Oh, Nate. All right. Let me.
My name is Jacob. Not that, I mean, you know.
Okay. Sure. Let me get Nate then. There he is. Sorry, Nate. I elevated Al instead of you. Okay. Nate,
all right.
You are unmuted.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Byrne, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for your time today. First off, before I get into it, I would like to thank the Canton Community Association for all of their hard work and input on this project. And I want to talk a little bit about the community process first. This hearing in itself has been a long time coming. I believe we were originally scheduled for July 27th, which we postponed for some additional time to meet with the community. And there were some other things that happened that were, I think the September 21st docket being canceled, some sign posting issues that happened in the meantime. So this is, which brings us till today. But we've been meeting with the Canton Community Association, in particular, their Economic Development Committee, chaired by Doug Kaufman, since early May. And I believe we've had at least 2, if not 3 presentations before their Economic Development Committee, had an in-person meeting at the site with between 25 to 30 of the immediately adjacent neighbors, and also had a separate meeting with several members of the community association to discuss transportation, transit, and parking issues. And I know that I thank Mr. French for his staff report, and there's a lot in there about these specific variances, which may seem like a lot on its face, but once I get into it, I think I hopefully help the board understand this. And I should also mention that there's a strong letter of support from the Canton Community Association in your file. And so the site in itself, as it exists, is roughly just under 15,000 square feet and is improved with two structures, a very large one-story church facility, as well as on the southwest corner of the site, the rectory building, which was discussed and is proposed for multifamily apartments. And for me personally, from an urban planning perspective, that has always been one of, if not the most important aspect of this project. And I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But on it as a whole, the site allows 19 units by right. That's whether they're multifamily or townhomes. And the proposal that we have today is for 16 units. That would be 9 single-family dwellings, the 8 along Hudson Street and 1 along Robinson Street, as well as the 6 multifamily units in this historic rectory building. And as part of the rectory building conversion, that's really when our architect got started looking at the project, and as Adam Carballo specializes in historic preservation, we wanted to have a really a detailed focus on the rectory. Not the the rest of the site wasn't as important, but the preserving this historic structure was always sort of at the front of our minds. And we think we have a plan that does that. It allows us to keep this building. And while there are no specific off-street parking spots dedicated to that structure, we are providing, bike storage, and this is per the negotiations and, coordination with the community, bike storage, as well as sort of a tool room to provide, whatever is needed to maintain the bikes. We've also committed to requesting a electronic scooter docking station along Elwood, right in front of the rectory building. So, and go back to the project as a whole, we are under the allowable density for the entire site, and technically have more parking spots, 18, than we do units. Granted, none of those are for the apartment building, but in addition, the townhomes are for sale townhomes. They're going to be market rate. It was important for us to provide, per the city's master plan, a diversity both in housing type as well as affordability. And the apartment project is by far the most affordable portion of this of the project as a whole. And we look at the specific variances, and I will say this is absolutely a unique site. It is, in terms of the size of the lot, the types and number of structures on the lot, the uses that happen, as well as the frontage, as Mr. French mentioned, along 3 rights of way, right? That's Hudson Street, Elwood, as well as Robinson Street. And so if you want to look at the use in itself, the 9 single family homes, as well as the 6 apartments, let's say that this were just going to be an all rental project, none of it's for sale, and we get rid of the subdivision. That removes all of the variances related to the rectory. No longer is there an off-street parking variance required, and no longer is there a minimum lot area variance required. So, and the way that we ensure we could do it that way and not have to come to the board, but is that the right way to approach this? Additionally, I'm just proposing some of the other options for the site was to keep the 1-story church building and have an all multifamily project. We could have 19 units, 6 in this building, 13 in the other building. And if we would have done that, we would have requested the historic structure off-street parking exemption, which in my experience, I think overwhelmingly would have been granted for this project. So we want to look at what the other options for this site will allow. So taking all of that into consideration, along with our really extensive outreach to the community association, we feel strongly that this is the best plan. And while these variances are needed as part of that, in my mind, they're more technical than substantive variances. And specifically in relation to the Robinson Street house, that was an opportunity that I wanted Mr. Wittenberg to talk a little bit more about it, but to create really a unique special building that is not what you typically would see in your brick row houses. And I think that in itself has never been an issue with the community. Parking has come up, and I addressed some of the things that have been done. What I actually left out in regards to the parking and transportation is initially this project included 2 curb cuts, one along Robinson Street, as well as one along South Elwood, just to the north of the rectory building and just to the south of the building that's at the corner of Hudson and Elwood. And after about 2 months going through the community process, this was really a sticking point that the community did not want either an entrance or an exit along South Elwood. They've had some issues with the intersection of Elwood and Hudson Street. And so we changed the plan. and got rid of it. And so now it is a in and out along Robinson Street and no vehicular access along South Elwood. And this plan was presented to the Planning Department Site Plan Review Committee with input from every relevant city agency, and we received Site Plan Review Committee approval on August 11th. So I think maybe unless there's any immediate questions, I would like Mr. Wittenberg to talk a little bit about add on to his role in the project, and then be happy to answer any questions after that, if that's okay.
Mr. Prettle, before you leave, are there any other community associations that are, I guess I'll say impacted, but certainly are situated on any portion of this project, other than the Camden Community Association?
Canton, yeah, this is really smack dab in the middle of the greater Canton area. And I've done as much work throughout this, the greater Canton neighborhood really as anywhere in the city. And I've always dealt with the Canton Community Association. So if there is, I am not aware of them. There may be, I don't want to speak to what else there may be, but again, I've been working in the Canton neighborhood for over 10 years, and they have a very strong association. We've worked, again, extensively with them. So,
and with regard to the understandings that have been reached as between the project and the community association, has any of that been reduced to an MOU?
The letter, it's not an MOU, but I would refer you to the letter signed by Doug Kaufman that was submitted prior to the September 21st scheduled hearing on this, that has a list of conditions, one of which, I said, there really is only one condition, which was that the the curb cut and the removal of the vehicular access along Elwood was as part of this plan, and based on our site plan review committee approval, that's what we intend to do. And we'd suggest, that that's the plan we're presenting to you today. So it's not quite same as an MOU, but we were grateful and excited to work through that process. And that's the document that you have from the community. And if you want to consider it an MOU, you discuss with Mr. Wittenberg, but I would let that speak for itself.
Very well. Who else do we have here?
Jake Wittenberg, if you don't mind.
Jake Wittenberg.
Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead.
To the members of the board, thank you for having us today, and to everybody who's on this call, thank you all for your patience as we go through these things. It's been a total pleasure meeting with the folks in Canton and getting their feedback really since April. We hosted in the current church space a meeting, and there were about 60 folks that came by, and we've worked closely with the EDC throughout this process in hearing people's concerns, assuaging people's concerns, and trying to create the most mindful development possible, along with balancing the desire to get the highest and best use out of the site. And it's been a total pleasure.
Okay. Great. Any other questions of Mr. Wittenberg?
No.
All right.
Mr. Wittenberg, Mr. Prettle, is there anybody else here to testify in support before we move to the opposition testimony?
Not to my knowledge, Ms. Byrne.
Okay, before we get to the individuals who are on the line in opposition, we have a letter from Joelcia Margany. Her issue really centers around the parking. After attending neighborhood meeting organized by Canton Community, she understands there's no parking solution for the 6 apartments. It includes a cut through between South Elwood and South Robinson. As you know, the Canton area and then under block of South Elwood lacks sufficient parking for its residents. Adding more residents without parking further exacerbates the issue. Finally, the alley already exists between South Elwood and South Robinson. Adding a second cut through near an intersection of South Hudson and South Elwood increases the possibility of more accidents. She cannot support it based on the no parking for the apartment dwelling and the cut through. All right, let's see. So Mr. Wittenberg, I'm gonna mute you just for sound purposes. I will go first to Mara Taylor. Ms. Taylor, you're unmuted.
Okay. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
Now we can't hear you, ma'am.
And all right, hold on a sec. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. I'm a member of the Canton Community Association Board, and I'm the one that organized the meeting at St. Bridget's Church with members of the adjacent blocks to this project. I would say the consensus among my neighbors is that we are supportive of the front-facing townhouses on Hudson. We have serious concerns regarding the lack of parking allotted to the rectory building and have spoken to Mr. Wittenberg and Mr. Prettle on numerous occasions. We had asked that perhaps a consideration be given to reduce the size of the house on Robinson Street to accommodate at least some parking, because it is not just about this project. There are additional projects in the immediate area causing a conflation of issues and making it somewhat untenable in our area in terms of the parking as a whole. So overall, that's really what I had to say. You should also have a letter from me in the file. And I think I represent not just myself, but a large group of neighbors with whom I've been communicating as I did outreach in the community myself by door knocking and flyers.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, we will move on. Let's see, hold on one second. All right, so Ms. Taylor has muted herself. We're going to move on to Valerie Pappas. Ms. Pappas, you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Hear you very clearly. Go ahead.
Great. As a former member of St. Bridget's Catholic community for all my life, I don't understand why the developer didn't reach out more to the Catholic community. St. Bridget's Church is the oldest church in Canton. Though that the structure that is on the place that it is now burned back in the 60s and had to be rebuilt. I just don't understand why they can't repurpose the building that's there into dwelling units to maintain some of the structure and some of the history of St. Bridget's community that was there. I feel that they have not reached out to the Catholic community and the church community that inhabited St. Bridget's for over 150 years. And I don't like the fact that the townhomes are going to be $1 million townhomes. They are going to be out of reach for many people that are going to be buying in this area. I mean, I bought my townhome for dollars when I moved in here in Canton. People just can't afford $1 million townhomes, and I think they should have reached out to us more as the Catholic community, but it seems it just steamrolled through, and we just really didn't know who the developers were until the end of July because there was no communication through the Canton Community Association, Economic Development Committee. There is no communication, maybe coming around knocking on, doors or putting flyers out or anything that this particular project was going to go forward. Our area here is very congested. The idea that not having parking for some of the units is not going to fly because, not everyone has a parking pad around here in Canton. So, I mean, they really take that into consideration. And I'm just feeling very left out as, someone that went to church there all her life. And the developers gave no really notice to us except for one meeting in which they invited the community to hear what their plans would be for the site.
Okay. Very well. Thank you for your input, ma'am. We have anyone else?
Believe we had one, let's see, we had one note in the chat from another neighbor who basically mirrored what Ms. Taylor had said. Nothing to add other than to affirm what Ms. Taylor said. And I don't see any hands raised. There's nothing else. I've just looked in the chat. I don't see let's see anyone else in the chat wishing to speak on Elwood. And we have no call-in users, which is interesting.
All right. I have a question for Mr. French. Mr. French, in light of Mr. Prettle's testimony as what the alternatives were, or could have been for the development of that site, are you in agreement with, I guess, the number of dwellings that the applicant could have created as of right? But of course, I think even in that, I think we still had some parking availability with those other alternatives. If you could speak on that briefly.
This is an R8 zoning district property. So the requirement is 750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. I did not run that calculation, but I would presume that Mr. Prettle's testimony is correct with that regard. The issue the planning department has is essentially that this is a situation where in order to get the subdivision approved, they first got to get the zoning board to approve the variance, and they are creating the need for a variance in the case of the off-street parking by deliberately proposing to subdivide what is now a unified lot, a single lot, in a certain way. And the department believes basically that the extent of subdivision with regard to lots 9 and 10 is excessive. There should be only one lot that contains the building, both the rectory building and the parking area that should serve it. And that would basically remove the need to have an off-street parking variance for the rectory building. It would also obviously relieve the pressure for on-street parking demand in the immediate vicinity.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that update. I think at this point, is it back to Mr. Prettle and
It is.
support?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to address a couple things, and then I'm also going to ask Mr. Wittenberg to address, the outreach that is done by the Archdiocese and the church in itself. But one, in regards to Ms. Pappas and the community meetings, she said she hadn't heard of this until July 27th. I mean, by that point, we'd already had 2, if not 3 meetings with the Economic Development Committee, as well as this in-person meeting at the church. And so I mean, it's unfortunate that she wasn't aware of it, but even Miss Taylor in her testimony said, they've done door knocking. So I think we've done, above what is required, and what is practical, for any development. There's extensive community notification, not to mention the fact that signs have been up now for 3 to 4 months continuously on this property. And I'll let Mr. Wittenberg speak to what the church does, but again, it's my understanding they have quite a lengthy internal process before even putting this property up for sale that involves all of their neighbors or all of their constituents, and many of whom were at the on-site meeting. And if I would just like, before I turn it over to Jake, like to touch on the off-street parking and subdivision aspect one more time, in that, per the city's master plan, again, a diversity of housing stock and affordability is, for me personally, the goal of this project. And the historic preservation aspect along with that for the rectory building is something that I believe is important, not only for Canton, but for the city as a whole. And what I've found in other similar projects, both in Canton as well as throughout Baltimore City, are these types of units do not attract tenants with the same percentage of car ownership as you would see in a single family dwelling or in a larger apartment situation. And in line with that is why we're providing the bike storage, the bike workroom, the scooters, as well as impacting the vehicular configuration for the townhomes. And so, we really looked at this as a whole. And, Mr. French, brings up the needs for these variances. But when you look at the project, again, as a whole, they all make sense. We believe that we are more than meeting the spirit or the intent of the provisions for off-street parking and density for the site. I'm really excited to move forward with this. I would urge the board to approve this as it is. And the planning commission will have a chance to review this at their subdivision hearing, should the board approve this. And so, Jake, if you don't mind, would you be able to speak a little bit about your understanding for the Archdiocese's internal process?
Yeah, before that, I do want to mention, somebody said over the course of this presentation that there were 2 existing structures. There are 3 existing structures. One is the church, one is the 20-foot apron on Robinson Street. The purpose of making the single family townhome on Robinson Street and then loading it from the drive aisle was to give back additional street parking to the neighborhood. So I think it's important to understand why that such a large house is being built. And also I'd like to mention that there are 18 off-street parking spaces being created for this project as a whole. As it relates to the decommissioning process with the Catholic Church, there were multiple meetings, community meetings, and I can only go off what what the Archdiocese has told me, that there were multiple meetings with current and past parishioners, that mailings were sent out, Facebook postings were made, announcements were made in church, and that the larger church community was alerted, both past parishioners and present. That is my understanding. I did not make those announcements or carry out any of that church community work to address the work that the Archdiocese has done. And then relative to the work with the community, the Canton Community Association, we proposed a larger community meeting to address Ms. Taylor's concerns, specifically, who's been opposing this project since its inception.
Okay. Very well. Are any other additional questions from the board?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prettle, for your presentation, and thanks to all who participated. We'll take this up at the end of the document. Right. Going to move on. Case number 2021-155, 919 Fawn Street. The appellant is Mo Caviani, and this is a request to construct a 3-story rear addition, a fourth floor addition, and use as 9 dwelling units. Variance required for off-street parking. Actually, before we go into this, let me just ask the board: does anybody require a break at this point? Keep moving.
One, it looks like I have something in the chat that the individual here for Arabia cannot stay past 3 and is asking to be rescheduled. That's 2021-192, which obviously we could do if the board is amenable to that.
That's fine if they're willing to be rescheduled to the next available docket. Sure.
Okay, that's not going to be till the 30th though. But yep.
Okay. So that'll be postponed for now.
Right. All right, so Arabia is going to be postponed because the presenter has to drop off. That one will be postponed to November 30th.
Okay. All right. I guess I didn't have any takers on the break. Just keep moving.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, case number 2021 1-155, 919 Fawn Street. I'll hear any planning and or staff reports we have for that property.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application, notes in particular that this property is located in the Chesapeake Bay critical area. The department wishes the applicant to be aware of the fact that because of that designation, the value of the proposed improvements would exceed 50% of the current assessed value of the existing structure. This would be considered a significant improvement according to the Chesapeake Bay critical area regulations. These regulations would require planting of one tree on site or payment of a mitigation fee and compliance with stormwater management regulations or payment of another mitigation fee. The applicant is therefore encouraged to consult the planning department following completion of this application. The department has no objection to approval of the application as presented, subject to the condition that all improvements are completed in accordance with plans to be approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Hey, Martin, did you say one tree? Martin?
Yes, yes, one tree. It's a small site.
All right, okay, thanks.
Again, this is to construct a addition, 3-story rear addition, 4th floor addition, use the building as a multifamily consisting of 7 dwelling units in a C1 district. Last authorized use was a multifamily dwelling for 3 dwelling units. Variances requested include interior side yard setback, 10 feet is required, 6.75 feet is proposed. Minimum rear yard setback, 20 feet is required, 8.5 feet is proposed. That's an 11.5 rear yard setback variance needed and a 3.5 rear yard, interior side yard setback required. Mr. Caviani, I've made you a panelist and you are unmuted.
Hi, thanks for giving me the opportunity to present my case. I apologize for my voice. I'm recovering from flu. As you mentioned,
no problem, sir.
As you mentioned, we have a minimum requirement of 20 feet setback, and we are requesting variance of 12 feet. You mentioned 9 units. We actually made a correction way back. We were intending to have only 7 units. I don't know if the documentation have been updated or not, but I heard you saying 9.
No, I think I'm sorry if I said 9, that was my fault. The application we have is 7.
Okay, great. And
okay,
we have reached out to the neighborhood, and unfortunately, we have not come up with an agreement with the neighborhood, and we are planning to build a three-story structure. Our 4th story is just going to be 1 great room, no bedroom. There's just going to be like access to the rooftop for the units. So there's no a bedroom will be only on the 3rd floor. Three stories, which it is currently right now. I have 3 large units. Our intention is to basically have 2 units per floor with the 3-story addition in the back. Unfortunately, the way our the neighbor property is, my property is 100 feet long. The neighbor on the left is 74 feet. Therefore, right around the corner from Exeter Street, there are 2 properties, specifically 310 and 312, that they are perpendicular to my lot. And when we build the addition, it's going to basically cover their property, just because they're, again, it's going to be in the back of their property. So we've had some opposition from them. I'm sure they have a chance to speak. When I purchased this property, I realized there are a number of properties in the neighborhood, some of them old, and one is specifically it's in construction phase at this time. And those properties have setbacks of 12 feet, 13 feet, 15 feet. So the backyards are pretty narrow. So my assumption was that there will not be a major issue in terms of getting variance. Obviously, not guaranteed. So that's kind of my position, that there are precedences within the block, several houses with setbacks of 12 feet. As a matter of fact, those two properties that are perpendicular to my property off of Exeter Street, they do have 12 feet setback. The property to one away from me, which is specifically 915 Fawn Street, that one is almost 100% lot coverage. The property in construction right now is 907 Fawn Street. That also has 15 feet setback.
Okay. Is there anyone else? Any questions for Mr. Caviani? All right. And is there anyone else, Mr. Caviani, that will be speaking on your behalf?
Not at this time.
Okay. What else do we
Mr.
have
Caviani,
on?
I'm just going to mute you just for sound purposes. We have Mr. Barry here. Mr. Barry, you here to testify in opposition?
Yes, I'm here with some neighborhood residents in Little Italy. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Mr. Barry. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So as the board is well aware, the applicant has the burden on him to show why these circumstances justify the need for the variances. The Little Italy community is a very historic neighborhood, and the incidences that he mentioned, the applicant mentioned, were existing buildings that became whatever. Those are hardly considered a precedent. Also, under transformed Baltimore zoning, density was almost tripled for these units. And so what is happening are people are coming in to try to build additions to take advantage of that density. In my professional opinion, there's no reason for any of the variances requested, for which I'll go into, other than to have larger units. The neighborhood did negotiate, you'll hear from them, and is not objecting to the 7 units. They were objecting to the.
It's all broken up on my end.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Mr. Barry. You said you're not objecting to. I'm sorry. Just say that again, please.
The neighborhood is not objecting to the 7 units, but the combination of the tightness of the neighborhood, which I'm going to go into, and the lack of justification for the variances, other than to perhaps get additional units, is not a sufficient reason to grant the variances. If the board looks at the block plat for this property, you'll see, and the applicant mentioned it, that there are properties on Exeter Street that back up to this property, rear yards. In C1, there was a specific provision that a 20-foot rear yard setback was required whenever there was not an alley. The intention, in my interpretation, was that the alley, which could be 15 feet, 10 feet, or 20 feet, would in effect act as a setback. In this case, the property lines on Exeter butt up to this property, and the residents would be materially affected by a diminishing of that setback. There hasn't been any justification for it. And in addition to the proposed building, there's also a 4-story, in effect, deck, which comes out, which is permitted, but it's a substantial structure. With that, I would like to add some of the neighborhood residents that own the adjacent properties, nearby properties, and they can add their discussion. But the neighborhood's position is to oppose the variances for any setback variance at this time.
Mr. Barry, maybe I'm confused or maybe I missed this, but you said that the neighbors are not opposed to the 7 units?
No. Not opposed to the 7 units.
Okay, they're just opposed to how we get there?
That's right. In other words, the 7 units, if they could be built within the existing structure or maybe a minor addition, but we haven't seen that. These plans have gone through several iterations between the engineer and the applicant and the community. And I think a week or so ago, the developer decided to submit this plan before you, which the neighbors do not feel is just. At this point, we're welcome to have more discussion with him, but we don't think he's presented any legal rationale for the board to approve the variances other than to maybe have larger units as opposed to more units. We have two contestants.
Okay.
Resident at 310 South Exeter Street. So my property, which is where I reside with my husband and my 2 children, would be immediately impacted. What Mr. Caviani's plan, from what I understand, would basically be building a structure completely blocking my backyard, up 4 feet or up, which would be a negative. It would limit the airflow that we receive. It would limit the sunlight.
I have no idea what you're feeling.
Yeah, we're getting some,
I'm sorry.
you're breaking up, ma'am. I'm not sure what device or how you're communicating, but you're kind of going in and out.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Absolutely. Sure can.
Okay. I repositioned the laptop.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to me and hearing me. I am the property owner and resident at 310 South Exeter Street. My name is Gia Fracassetti. What Mr. Caviani's proposed plan would be to basically build completely a wall covering my entire backyard. Now, the back of my backyard is open. It butts up to his backyard, which is open and it's open space. I think it would have a great negative impact on the value of our property. And like Mr. Barry said, I don't really see a reason why he would need to use all of that space leading up to 312 South Exeter Street. They are also opposed to this. She was not able to join us today, but we're not opposed to the 7 units. And what is rightfully entitled to him, I believe, is 8 feet. I am not on board, and I am opposed to these 20 feet back. We utilize our backyard. I enjoy the air. I enjoy the sunlight. I think it would be detrimental to us, and it would have a negative value on our property.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, this is Giovanna Blatterman. Hi, Mr. Fields. Hi.
How are you, ma'am?
Bill. How are you? I'm sorry, I can't see all of you, Mr. Bonaventure. Hi, Ms. Byrne. First of all, thank you so much for hearing us today. And just a kind word about Mr. Caviani. We've met, he's a lovely man, and I understand his position. I also would like to relate to you that this is a family home for over 50 years. We've lived there. Our backs on Exeter Street, we have yards that we are landlocked, and the yards kind of connect with each other. This particular building, as you've heard already, extends and is perpendicular to the back of 308, 310, and 312. 308 already has 3 stories of that building behind it, so that they don't have that yard, but they do have an alley next to them where they have some freedom to get to Fawn Street. So they have an alley between them. We unfortunately don't. We go against each other, and we've met several times, or at least one time I've met several times with the architect. And these plans have been fluid. They've changed every other week. They're changing the plans. And I thought we had come to an understanding where he actually did not have any cause or hardship to add anything to this building other than a fourth floor, which is under the code permissible, because his intent was the 7 apartments. The law, the new zoning gives him the right to the 7 apartments. In doing so, we're not hampering his 7 apartments, but he wants to add more space, perhaps to the closets, perhaps to the bedrooms, and in adding more space to those rooms, he's absolutely taken up 310 and 312 and making closets out of our yards. I don't think that this equates to any hardship on his part. He's able to go 7 feet, I believe, beyond the structure now, over the counter. I appreciate the fact that, you know, he's a great guy, he's going to be a great neighbor, but while his value of his property will probably go up, the values of ours will probably go down. And if it's not the monetary value, it's certainly the living quality value of our properties will go down. I know that this is in your hands. I hope that you can find it, that we deserve a little help from your side too. I just want to add before I put Al back on. We have another property owner behind us that had 100% property coverage. His building now is going up 4 stories. And what this man did, he took the land and he recessed his land on every side by 10 feet. Here, that man already had existing 100% coverage of his lot that came against our walls on the south side. And a larger builder recesses his land and gives us 10 feet of side yard. And this gentleman now, he wants to take up as much as he can. And I feel like we need some help from you. I apologize if I'm too winded. Thank you, and here's Al.
Thank you, Ms. Blatterman. Appreciate your input. Okay. Is there anyone else?
Allowed to build a 4-story by right. You're allowed to build 6 feet. I believe the existing building is 26 feet from the property line. The requirement is 20 feet. So he could build 6 feet additional and add a 4-story and to build 7 units within that. So that's our recommendation to oppose the variances and the reasons why.
You're back to Mr. Capiani.
I think I have one person with their hand raised.
Okay, I'm
Ms.
sorry. Go
Natasha
ahead.
Hunter.
Go ahead.
That's okay. Miss Hunter, you're unmuted. Are you here for Fawn Street?
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay, all right, then you'll have to wait. Hold on. Okay. Then I don't see anything else in the chat. I don't see any other hands raised. I believe that this is it.
All right,
So
so
we
we're
can go
back to Mr. Caviani.
Yeah, and Mr. Caviani,
Yeah.
you're unmuted.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate the neighbors taking their time and showing up, and I hear their concern, and I sympathize with them. Unfortunately, the situation the lots are located and, you know, the alleyways and so on, that's obviously it is what it is. All I'm asking is the board to do, the plans have been submitted. There have been 2 different versions of plans submitted. The current plan has been posted, was uploaded long time ago. As you all know, the previous month meeting was canceled, rescheduled to this month. So that means that at a minimum, the plans have been uploaded for 2 months. The other issue that I raised is that I cited some examples, but I also mentioned that specifically 907, which is in construction right now, they have been allowed to have a 15 feet or 14 feet setback. And all I'm asking the zoning requesting is that to grant me what has been granted to others in the neighborhood. So I'm not really asking for any special treatment. There are many properties with less setbacks. I'm simply asking for a similar thing. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, you said that was current construction at 907?
Yeah, 907 Fawn Street.
Mr. Caviani, can you construct the 7 units if we do not grant these? Is it just a question of, as Mr. Barry said, of you would have to construct smaller units?
No higher.
I worked with the architect, because this is an old building, so we have some constraints. It's not just a matter of, if this was a nice, clean lot, that wouldn't have been an issue. But given the fact that, it's an old building, there are a lot of things you have to be careful with. So that's why that extra 5 feet would make a huge difference for us.
So is that a yes or a no to my question? Can you build the 7 units without the variances? And they would just be smaller units?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, I guess, for Mr. Caviani?
All right. I think that's it. I will take that one up and move on to the next matter. Case number, am I good, Ms. Byrne?
Yes, that was it for Fawn Street.
All right. Calling case number 2021-157, 2663 Lehman Street. The appellant is Natasha Ann Hunter, and the request is to use the first floor as a carry-out restaurant. Here any staff from planning and staff.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application. Noted that the property, according to records available to the Planning Department, was last authorized for use as a single-family dwelling. There may have been a carryout operating at this location at one time. However, zoning administration staff noted that in 2014, the first floor level commercial space had been vacant since 2006, and therefore it's possible that non-conforming use as a carryout food shop has been discontinued for over 12 consecutive months. For this reason, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application because non-conforming use of the property as a carryout food shop, if it did exist, has been discontinued or abandoned and cannot be reestablished according to the zoning code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
As Mr. French stated, but the request that comes in is for a conditional use. So the issue is it a carry-out food shop or is it a restaurant? If it's a carry-out food shop, the board can't grant that. If it is as a restaurant, the board can grant that as a conditional use. It comes down to whether or not there's tables and an actual restaurant moving forward. So I've got Ms. Hunter. I will make her a panelist. Ms. Hunter?
Yes, how are you? I'm here.
Doing well, ma'am. Tell us about your project.
Yes, I'm at 2663 Lehman Street. Like you said, it was previously a carryout. It's set up as a carryout, all of the fixings, gas lines, electric lines, even the materials here. I just brought the property and just tried to reopen what was there before with the intent to run as previous. I was advised I had to reapply to get rezoned. I would like to do it as a restaurant. It's not an opening for tabling, sitting. It strictly look like it's set up for a restaurant, for carryout. As she said, if I wanted to do restaurant with it, which is definitely an option, I will request for outside dining and I provide food for my outside service.
So what are you requesting, ma'am? A carry out or a restaurant?
Yes, I'm carry out / restaurant. with outside dining.
Have you submitted plans for outside dining in your application?
No, sir, I did not submit plan for outside dining.
All right, so are you seeking to amend your application?
I would amend application if I'm not eligible for the carryout.
Well, we can tell you that under the code, as we've just heard, we don't have the authority, the board doesn't have the authority to approve a carryout. So the effort to reestablish what was once there is not available to you.
Okay.
But to the extent you're going to modify your plans and your application, one suggestion might be that you postpone your effort to provide the BMZA, with the appropriate plans and what exactly it is that you're seeking to come before us another day when we can review all the supporting documents for your amended request.
May I ask you for a restaurant to be ran? I must have seating for customers inside of the unit.
Ms. Byrne, can you speak to?
I would actually ask Mr. French as well. Is seating required inside or as long as there's seating outside? Does that, just ask him to weigh in on that. I'm gonna look at the definition really quickly.
In terms of the precedents that I've observed over the years, the board has required that the floor plan or the interior of the use show that there is in fact a seating area where customers would be seated to consume their food. The outdoor dining is considered accessory to the restaurant itself in the zoning code. And therefore, in order to have the outdoor dining as accessory to a restaurant, you first must have a restaurant. And the restaurant definition basically requires that the patrons be seated for dining and consume their food there within the premises, which would mean within the four walls. The floor plan that was included with this particular application did not appear to show any indoor seating area.
Yes.
Mr. French, is it also a requirement that the sales of the dine-in exceed the sales of the carryout, I believe? Because you can have carryout.
I'm not familiar with that rule specifically, but it certainly sounds reasonable. I think it would be a question for the zoning administrator to answer.
I think that might be getting into alcohol sales.
I think that, as Simon said, that's alcohol sales. Yeah, there's no distinction in the code for between carryout and on premises. You just have to start with on-premise consumption.
May I please show y'all the unit, and I will show you a sitting area that was there that is still usable. I'm here at the unit, and I'm willing to show the board what it looks like before y'all make a decision, please. And thank you.
Can you turn your camera on, Miss Hunter?
Yes, I'm going downstairs in the unit on the first floor right now because it is the sitting area here that I did not plan to have use for, but if that would get me use,
I'm gonna look at the use standard too while we're here.
Mr. Chair, I think you should postpone so she can.
Yeah, I mean, I think the plans that have to be submitted in support of a restaurant need to show it as our precedent is indicated.
It already, the floor plan was with the use of occupancy permit.
Well, what we have apparently that's in your application does not evidence the seating. So
I'll show you the seating area.
are you there, ma'am?
Yes, sir. This would be the seating area and table area for dining.
Okay, you're saying this, we can't see anything.
But I would also add that in order for you to add outdoor dining, you'd also have to amend your application for outdoor dining.
Okay. I'm showing you now. This is a seating area.
We still don't see anything, man.
Well, even if we see it, I think we need to see a diagram as to how the sitting is going to work.
Yeah, ma'am, I think it may be in your best interest. I understand your effort to try to support your now amended request now. But in fairness to the board, we need to make a determination on the whole ball of wax. But certainly on the floor plan and everything we typically consider when we're trying to determine whether or not it's a viable restaurant as per the code. So again, what I can suggest to you is an opportunity to postpone your hearing so that you have the best opportunity, to get a favorable resolution, and you can then supply and support your amended application with everything that you need to support it with. You can provide the photos of what you now see, but which we still can't, and the new floor plan and diagram to further support the request for approval for a restaurant. So would you like to postpone it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is that okay with the board?
Yes.
All right. Grant you a postponement, and it'll be reset at the next opportunity. You can contact the zoning office regarding that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Y'all today, and I appreciate y'all for taking the time.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. So 2021-157 is postponed. We'll move on to, let's see. Is this the last case on the docket, 2021-227?
South Curley Street.
701 South.
What about 173? Which one was that?
I do.
Oh, we did that one like first, kind of, right? That's on the school,
Correct.
the church
Yeah.
school. Okay.
We've gone through that one. So again, 2021-227, 701 South Curley Street, Olivia Bahena. This is a request to use the second floor as a restaurant / carryout and to use the first floor as a bar. And I'll hear any reports we have from planning and staff.
James, there's a message in the chat room that 2027, I'm afraid I have a meeting scheduled for 3:30. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that was from a Gary McFarland, and I asked if he was here for the applicant because I do not see, but Olivia Bahena is here, who is the panelist.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Olivia Bahena is here, who is the applicant. So let's just make sure that she has the people she needs, I guess, before we go forward.
I think I just saw something pop up that said I'm Gary McFarland. I'm still here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
He's still here. Okay. Okay. So it looks like we can go forward.
Okay. So reports for 701 South Curley.
Okay, Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the R8 zoning district. Property is currently in use on its first floor as a tavern, which is a non-conforming use in the R8 zoning district. And the zoning code prohibits expansion of non-conforming uses. The restaurant that's proposed will be on the second floor level of upstairs of the tavern. And there was no floor plan provided which indicated that there would be a completely separate physical entrance to the restaurant. It would not require patrons to go through the tavern to reach the restaurant, or alternately, there was no interior connection to the tavern. From the restaurant. They carry out food shop as in conjunction with the restaurant, and the department notes that carry out food shops are prohibited use in the R8 zoning district. And it would be a new non-conforming use if the board would approve the carry out food shop portion of this application, and the zoning code prohibits creation of new non-conforming uses. Therefore, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the portion of the application pertaining to a carryout food shop, because a carryout food shop is a non-conforming use in the R8 zoning district where the property is located, and the zoning code does not authorize creation of new non-conforming uses. With regard to the restaurant itself, the department believes that there should be a floor plan that clearly shows that there is a separate physical entrance to the restaurant that does not require entry through the tavern portion of the building, and that there is no interconnection between the restaurant and the tavern, as otherwise the restaurant functionally would constitute an expansion of the non-conforming use of the tavern. The department has no objection to approval of the portion of the application pertaining to a restaurant, provided that the restaurant use is separate from the existing non-conforming tavern on the first floor of the premises. If the restaurant otherwise meets all criteria for approval of the neighborhood commercial establishment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Just to again quickly reiterate what Mr. French said, the board has the authority to grant a restaurant use, but does not have the authority to grant a carryout use. The board does not have the authority to expand an existing non-conforming use, which would be the tavern. So unless they are two distinct uses, any expansion of the tavern or creation of a new carryout use, the board does not have the authority to grant. So Ms. Bahina is the applicant. I will make her a panelist. Ms. Bahina, you are unmuted.
Hi, yes. I did not submitted the plans, but so right now the first floor is zoned as a tavern, and then on the second floor there used to be an apartment, and it has a separate entrance from the tavern. So there's an outside there's a metal stairs on the side of Foster Street.
Can you access the tavern from inside the second floor?
No, you can't. I was outside. I'm right here at the property. I was trying to step outside, but and show you the entrance. It's not connected one to another, but it's just my signal goes really bad.
I can share my screen and show you all if you want. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, please
you
do.
want to see it? Sure.
Yeah.
Ms. Bahina, do you mind if I do that for you?
No, it's
Okay.
yes.
And you can tell me how to rotate it and everything like that. Oh,
Yes.
Katie, you gotta.
Thank you for the help.
All right. So we don't see it yet, Sabrina.
Is it like a basketball or a football that like?
Pass the ball to share screen.
Oh, I do have to pass you the ball. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. You've got the ball.
My screen. Like screen 1, 2, or 3. We're gonna take a gamble and see what comes up. This will be fun.
Number 1.
Oh, that's not it. Hold on. Let me find. That is.
Nice move.
That is a baby.
Yeah. Let me try a different screen. It would be. Oh wait.
Not a restaurant.
Okay, there we go. I think it's this one. Hold on. Now it's weird to me because I can see. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
You can see it. You see. So, Miss Bahina, are these the metal stairs we're talking about?
Yes. Yes. So they're still there. We did some because my husband owns the whole property, so he's the one that's taking care of the downstairs where it's the tavern, and so the stairs have been kept the same, and we painted the building. Right now the building is gray gray navy.
Yeah, this is from 2 years ago, 2 years and a couple months ago, from June of 2019.
So no connection between the second floor and the first floor.
Okay, do you have any
And it wouldn't be a connection. We're not, we're trying to keep a separate business, one from another.
I understand. Do you have any photographs of the interior of the building?
I think I can go outside and show you. From upstairs, you're saying?
We might not be able to see your phone. So I guess the issue here is the documents that you submitted. Like understanding the limitations that the board has, that everything, they have to be two separate, completely separate businesses. And
Door. Is Miss Bahina, is this white door up here? The door to the second floor?
Yes.
Okay. Your
So-
building looks a lot better than this now?
Yes.
Okay.
I wish I could show you if I could turn on the camera.
yeah,
Is
I
there-
don't think it'll work, but
Wi-Fi.
No, I don't think it has to do with the. Hold on a second. Now goes the to start my video.
Ms. Bahina, is the restaurant going to have a separate kitchen for itself as opposed to the tavern?
Doesn't have a kitchen.
I'm sorry?
The tavern doesn't have a kitchen.
Doesn't have a kitchen, okay.
No.
Oh, where did you go? We could see you.
I wanted to show you the outside of the building.
Can you, make sure you turn your camera around.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, that looks a lot better.
I hope I don't get cut off. This is how it looks. We painted everything.
all right. I think what I'll do is, Sabrina, I'm gonna take the ball back from you so we can see her full screen.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. All right, so, Hina, hopefully we can you speak again so we can try to see the bigger version?
Yeah, so this will be the entrance for the restaurant, and then what we're thinking to do to not have any problems upstairs with the neighbors is we're gonna hire an architect to change the door from the corner to this side, so that way it doesn't bother the neighbors next door.
So you said you're gonna move the door, just move the door over one to the
Yeah.
right, kind of.
Where the window is, we're gonna have a window, and then where the door is, let me see if I'm just scared that I get cut off, but I'll see.
Yeah,
Well-
there we go. All right. But James?
So this is the second floor. So right now, the neighbors did an addition right now. So to be safe, this is the current door, and this is the window. So we want to change the window to this side and the door to this side.
Okay, are you able to go inside?
Um.
My question is to confirm that there's no access from the second floor to the first floor.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I think we've lost her.
Well, it doesn't look like there's any access at all.
It's just open space right now.
Where's the kitchen gonna be?
So we're planning to have the kitchen on that corner,
Okay,
and then the ceiling will be like on this side. it's not a big space, so we'll probably have around 4 tables because we're thinking the kitchen there, and then we'll have the 2 bathrooms there on the corner, and then like on this side will be like the sitting area.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I can't listen until we have some plans.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I can't vote on this until we actually have plans.
Yeah, I think Bill said
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, he's, yeah, I understand that. Okay. Well, Ms. Bahena, I think I would like, again, to maybe offer you the opportunity to postpone this so you can provide the plans that evidence
Okay.
drawings,
Yeah.
with photos, because I would like a fully supported record. Since it's substantially unfinished up there.
So you want plans to show how it's gonna look?
Yes.
The finished product, and the person from that he didn't show that he had the plans. Do you need that to show? Or
Well,
upstairs?
I guess, again, at the end of the day, you're seeking to support the fact that there will be no access from the first to the second level. I see a portion of that that's unfinished, that floor is unfinished. I mean, I don't know what your original intent was. I mean, arguably, you could provide stairway, but it's unfinished.
That, because down here they had the old heating ventilation tavern, right? So that's why the floor was open on that corner. But it's okay. I will submit the plans.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, but I think you were explaining why that portion is unfinished.
So they were running some pipes and electricity to the tavern, because the tavern, we just remodel it because it was in a bad stage. So
Sure.
that you don't see part of the flooring on the second floor. But we won't connect it, and I will submit again the plans so you guys can get an idea exactly how to carry out the restaurant.
Okay. What would also be helpful would be photos of the first floor looking up at the ceiling.
The first floor looking up the ceiling. Yes, I can do that.
Okay. That would be great. And if you'd be, it looks like it's going to be, a little while before that's finished and ready to be operable. So
Oh yeah, it is.
perhaps we can put that on the next docket, and you can support that, and we can continue this matter until you're ready to present that information.
Okay, I will do that then.
Very well. So we'll formally postpone it for now and reset it when you can reach out to Ms. Byrne at the BMZA and let us know when you're ready to come back or to review your additional information.
Okay.
Very well. Thank you so much.
We have, thank you. We did have Gary McFarland, I think, who was on for this one in particular.
Yeah, he is.
So,
Well, you know what? I guess I'd still like to see, and Bill, I think you'd still like to see some additional information. I guess regardless of what Mr. McFarland's going to testify to.
yeah, I can, let me, I guess, unmute Mr. McFarland to see because I don't know if he's here in support or in opposition. So I'll just check real quick. Mr. McFarland, Mr. McFadden?
Mr. McFarland, yes, ma'am.
Were you here in support or opposition of this particular application, sir?
I am in opposition. I am hoping that the board will condition any kind of approval based on what my testimony will be in a moment.
Hey, James, I
Okay,
suggest if since the case has been postponed, we really shouldn't hear the opposition testimony at this point.
Right.
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 Yeah, we're gonna be bringing this back, Mr. McFarland, because this matter is being. Go ahead, sir.
I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I understand that it could be postponed. I'm afraid, well, it was online since 1 p.m. Is there any way that I can provide this opposition in writing so that when the next time comes around, I don't necessarily have to wait while the docket is processed?
Absolutely, absolutely is. You can speak with Ms. Byrne, or she can give you that information now, or you can reach out later.
Fantastic. Ms. Byrne, if you don't mind providing me an email on the
Yep, I'll put the email in the chat. But you could, it's easy. It's bmza@baltimorecity.gov.
Okay, and should I reference some kind of number, the 2027 number? Excuse me, the 227 number?
Yep, same number, reference the 2021-227 and the address.
Fantastic. And final question, I promise. May I, when I turn in my opposition, can I do so in the form of a Word document, or do you just want a straight text in the email?
Either one is fine, whatever works for you.
Understood. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so formally again, 2021-227 will be postponed. We'll hear that another time. Does that conclude the docket for today?
Yes, well, Hollins, we postponed. Right, so that was the last one, and that one's been postponed.
Right, that's postponed. Okay. We can proceed to deliberations. I guess we can discuss this. I do need to take a couple of minutes, if that's okay.